Gents, part C, we've got this thing here. So you have to read data from a file. It's just a text file that does stuff. It's stored in this thing called rectangles, which looks like that. So those first four values are the coordinates for your first rectangle. So what happens is there's 10 distinct rectangles get drawn. We create this thing. So we go x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's the first coordinate of your thing. Your next one would obviously be an x4, next 4. So we read them in to a structure of things called records, which we haven't looked at, but we will shortly. So there are 10 different rectangles. We're going to learn about a thing called an array of records. What are arrays used for? Anyone remember?
Like a big shelf, shoeboxes that you fill.
Yeah, so they're the same idea. So rather than have name and have it 15 times, name 1, name 2, name 3, name 4, we say this is name and we're going to record 15 of them. So if you think of an egg carton I may have used with you last time we looked at them, that is not a bad way to go. So what will actually happen is reading from a file to get us started will look a lot like this. So this is in the OneNote, so you don't have to get too excited about thinking you're missing anything. And it's basically combining that skill and making a record skill and then using the array of records, which we'll run through, that will hopefully make sense for you. So we start off with our program as usual. I'll just grab this and we'll shove it into Lazarus. Okay, so our first job is we create a thing called file name, which is text. Count we've seen before, and this is an array, so we're just going to record 5 names. There's a little bit down the end there, I'll just kill off for a sec. Make that a bit bigger for people. So our first procedure is called assign file. Strangely enough, Pascal doesn't like stuff like that. Okay, so it doesn't allow you to put D drive or G drive or whatever directory you want to use. This thing, assign, is like an alias. So wherever you see file name in your program, it's actually referring to this thing. So it likes words like file name, it's just like a variable, but that stuff drives it nuts. So it's a little way of tricking it around. Okay, moving down, we then have the procedure to read 5 names. Reset here. Do any of you fellas ever heard of cassette tapes?
Yes.
Or VHS tapes? Yes. You may have come across. Excellent. There will be a time when I say that in a year and everyone will go, don't know what you're talking about, but not yet, thankfully. Okay, the idea of reset is like rewinding your cassette tape to the very beginning of the file. Okay, the other one is called rewrite. So rewrite is actually blanks your file out and start again. So in this particular case, I've actually got a file in D drive that's called IPT text. So you see those people's names there? So Harry, Ben, Matthew, Hamish and Tim. What we're going to do, where the hell is it? By resetting that, it's rewinding us to the start of that tape, so it goes back to the front of that first name. Okay, and then 5 times we're going to get a value. So we're going to read data from that file. So it's, instead of writing something, because the data already exists, we're just going to go and grab it. So the same with your task, your data already exists, you just have to go and fetch it. So in other words, we're going to go, so rewind me to the start of the tape. When I'm there, I want to do something 5 times. And read line, you'll notice, has a new bit. What's the new bit that you haven't seen in a read line before? Yeah, the file name bit. So usually we read it and it's old mate hitting keys, hitting enter. That's how we read data in. It's going into this thing here. So that's still your variable. So obviously the first time count is 1. So whatever we read from the file. So go to this file, which we all know is that file there. So go here and get me something and shove it into that box. Well, remember our name box is split into 5 groups, 5 petitions. Once you've done that 5 times, so it goes and gets Fred, Mary, George, whatever, it then comes back to the file name and then says, righto, close it up for me. So we're sort of shutting it off. Okay. When we want to show that stuff on the screen, it's simply a case of going here and saying, this is now stored in the memory. It's no longer reading from the file, so it sort of sits in the RAM, if you know what RAM is. And it says, go and get me the name, and I want the first one, spit it out on the screen. Go and do the second name, the third name, the fourth name. So if we have a quick run of that, it should say it's successfully built, and then it goes and grabs those 5 names from there. Okay. Fairly simple. And again, I'll give you that code. You don't have to go and reinvent the wheel. So part C is simply combining that skill with what I'll show you in a sec. Ethan.
If you want to read every second name, you should just go read line and then read line file name count.
You could, or you could read them all but then only display every second one. I'd probably, the reading bit I would read everything because you can drag it all in and then do something with it. If I go to that text file and I update it for you fellas, okay, okay, so we've changed a few names there. I better give you a capital, Logan, that'll be fair. Okay, I save that file, so just close it and save it. What do you think happens when I run it this time? Well, you'd hope so. So again, we've rewound to the start of the tape. We said 5 times I want to do a job. I want to go to this file. It knows that file is the D drive 12 IPT file. Shoves it into that variable, and then we close it once we're done. So remember that line there gets done 5 times. Okay. Once we've got it in our memory, we can do what we like with it. So in this case, we're just going to display it on the screen. Or if you had numbers, you could add them up. In your case, you're going to use the values as coordinates of your different bits. Okay, we run it again, and this time we get Ethan, Logan, George, and the bottom 2 we didn't change. So it's just going to a place, extracting some data. Okay?
So,
Yes?
did you see how that guy did that picture?